Oh, Lord.
All right. Hi, I'm Rachel.
And I'm Matt.
Welcome to the Strange and Beautiful Book Club. Monthly book club episode. Like 3 weeks late. Why?
We didn't say what month it'd come out. Well, we kind of did.
No, we did. Yeah, we definitely did.
It was heavily implied.
It was heavily implied.
But not explicitly stated.
Oh, it was explicitly stated.
When we would read the book by.
Yeah. Well, it's pinned to the top of our Instagram feed.
You can always retcon that, Rachel.
I can. Actually, I have the power. I won't, though. It's fine. It happens. We're human. Welcome to the Strange and Beautiful Book Club. There are many reasons why this is late, and one of them is that this book is pure and utter bullshit, and I'm going to let Matt take most of this one.
It wasn't the worst book I've ever read.
You know what? I'm going to give that one to you, and I'm going to give it to you because I'm currently rereading Twilight. And that's it. You're welcome. That's a freebie.
I think it's the second worst book that you've made me read. Rudy, seriously. It's the second worst book that you've made me read.
Okay. I love all the qualifiers in that. You're like, well, did Rachel make me read it? Yes. Was it worse than, what was the other book that I had you read that you didn't like?
I'd have to.
Oh, he's trying to be on your lap.
I know, but he's stabbing me with his tiny claws that don't retract anymore.
Oh, you know
so
what?
I will put him next to me on the comfy thing.
He's an old man.
And he can be in proximity.
Sometimes things don't retract like they used to.
But part of setting healthy boundaries is removing yourself from situations
That's fine.
that are causing you pain.
It's fine. You don't have to let the cat stab you. Is it the 1,000 Lives of Arter-Ben?
Maybe.
The one with dragon shit is the magic. You thought it couldn't get worse than dragon shit magic. Oh boy. How about whatever the fuck this book was? You know what this was? This was like a bunch of dudes standing in a circle jerking each other off.
Oh no, it was one guy thinking about a circle jerk.
Yeah, thinking about all the people he could invite and how cool they would all be and how they would be worthy of touching his dick. And only if they were Egyptian gods or 1,000-year-old princes who were sometimes frogs.
Movie Planet of the Apes.
You're welcome. Listen, I run a tight ship around here, okay?
Let's see. Day Tripper was really good. Solaris was a little rough.
Solaris was good. I got Solaris. I got where we were going.
Solaris was high concept.
Yeah, I got, okay, this made sense. Yeah. I understand why this is formative. Okay, great. I get it. Okay. I don't get why this is formative. Like, I have seen this as like oh yeah, this is the shit, y'all. Like, this is sci-fi. This is where we all get our, how? Where? When? In what part of this book?
Okay, so in my head, here's what happens. This is my internal descriptions. I classify this as a post-technology sci-fi, so that it's verging on fantasy vibes, but it's kind of explicitly stated that this is all technology that has driven all this stuff.
Yeah.
And the post-technological
science is indistinguishable from magic.
Right. Yeah, that concept is established now.
Right.
But this book was published when? 1960?
In the 60s.
Yeah. So at the time, in the 60s, this would have been an unusual concept for a book. That's why I think it was...
1969. 69, obviously. Nice. I mean, I get where you're going. I get what you're saying.
Now, the other side of that is this is an extremely male book.
This is so male. It was so male.
And it felt a little bit like when you got to like 3/4 through Children of Dune, and Frank Herbert was like, I just need to wrap this shit up. Yeah. And he just skipped through a bunch of things. This book did the same thing, but it didn't really lay the groundwork beforehand.
Yeah.
And so the last quarter of the book is just like a jumble.
Why don't you take us from beginning to end? Go. What happens at the beginning? We meet Nameless guy.
Egyptian mythology in space.
Yeah. Yeah. We meet Set. Isn't it Set? And
we don't know it's Set.
Oh, yet. Yeah. Well, we meet Osiris? No, who's the bad guy at the
Anubis?
beginning? Anubis, thank you. Like, it's already fleeing my mind.
All right. So, yeah, we start out with Anubis. He's in his realm of the dead.
Yeah.
Blah.
Blah, blah.
I am the god here. And he has a helper.
Yeah, you know.
Been helping him for 1,000 years.
You know what really? 1,000 years. I should have read this book. I listened to this audiobook, and the version that's available for free on Audible, Anubis sounds like Christopher Walken with like even the quiver in his voice. He's like, because they named the guy Wakeham, and he's like, Wakeham, you will go down to the middle,
wake him up
to the middle realms, and you will fight the prince who was 1,000. And I'm like, what is happening? He's supposed to be like the god of the dead, and he sounds like he doesn't want to.
Plot-wise, it can go pretty quick.
Yeah. Okay, go.
So you start with Anubis.
Yep.
Anubis has this helper.
Yep.
Hey, helper. You've been helping me for 1,000 years.
You're a good helper.
You're a good helper. I'm going to give you a name now.
He's like, I want my name back. And he's like, no, I didn't say I give you your name back.
You don't get to choose.
I said I give you a name. Be grateful.
Why do you want your name? You don't. That's why.
Yeah.
So
he's like, okay. Why? Was I somebody big? And he was like, no, you were fucking nobody. That's why you don't get your name back. Obviously. So
there's a fight just to show how powerful Wakeham is.
With a metal centaur scorpion guy.
He turns Wakeham into a robot.
After having him burn his own dick off.
I forgot about that. Yeah. Yeah, he gives him robot arms.
Gives him a robot hand, makes him put the hand in a brazier of fire, and then hold his member until it is reduced to ash.
Yep, and then he gets a whole metal body.
Yeah.
And then he gets a whole flesh body back. But while he has the metal body, he gets plugged into the brain computer system. So he can see what the universe looks like.
Yeah.
And so we get some exposition, world building, whatever. And then, okay, go forth. There is someone who is a heretic and I don't like him. So you kill him. That's your job.
The prince who was 1,000.
The prince who was 1,000.
Right, because there's like a certain number of immortals in the universe. And
at this point, there should only be 2.
Yeah.
Is what Anubis says.
Right. And
Anubis and Osiris.
One guy, and he's like, that fucking guy who's been immortal, and we can't seem to get him not immortal.
These are the laws of the universe.
Yeah.
You live and then you die. And then there are some people who are heretics who artificially extend their lives.
Yeah.
And we don't like that. It messes with the state of things. It definitely doesn't introduce a risk to my station. So go take care of these immortals, particularly this guy.
Yeah.
Where is he? You'll find him.
Yeah,
it's going to take you a while.
You're immortal. Go fucking find him.
So he goes off, and instead of finding the prince who was 1,000, he finds a lady to have sex with.
I mean,
in the most like male alpha dream possible. By beating somebody up and then just completely overwhelming this lady.
We should talk about the time fugue, because he doesn't just beat the guy up. Is this the one where he makes like 100 copies of himself by going back 1 second at a time?
That's later.
Okay.
When he fights the Steel General.
Okay.
This guy, he just fights straight up. Anyway, then we get Osiris sends Horus to also kill the prince who was the 1,000.
Yeah.
And there's some shenanigans. Horus goes to a fortune teller who reads entrails. Okay, this scene was really funny.
Yes. No, yes. This this was the one scene where I was like...
This book has moments.
Okay.
Where,
was
this
trying
is
to be funny.
Really funny.
Okay.
So he goes
and then it led me to wonder, is he trying to be funny in other parts and it's just not coming off as funny? Because this part was really fucking funny. Because he goes to read the entrails of this guy. He goes to this planet
where there's a bunch of these warring like city-states. And they're renowned for having these entrail reader fortune tellers.
Yeah.
And so he goes to one and he's like, oh, well, I don't have any human bodies. And they're the best.
No, he's like,
for
if you want,
reading the future.
If you want, like, I can do 90 to 100, but I need human entrails. I can do like 50 to 75, maybe, but that's like a pig. You know, like if you want the good shit, I need the good shit.
So the king, leader of this city, authorizes a raid against another city-state, and they abduct some people. And these, like, 9 people or whatever, are going to be disemboweled for the purposes of fortune telling. And so he's like, oh, I think he does one guy and he doesn't get much out of him. But then he does the next guy, and the next guy is this guy's rival, fortune teller entrail reader from another city.
State, yeah.
And and as he's reading the guy's entrails, he's like, oh, it's unclear. And this guy that got disemboweled is like, God, you're bad at this. It obviously says that, you know, where the person, like what the person's name is, that Horus needs to look out for, and where to find the guy. Just look at it.
Yeah, and he's like, shut up. And
you're
he's
going
like, no,
blind, man.
And he's like,
can't you read the entrails?
He's like, these are my entrails. I think I'm allowed to read them.
And there's just this banter while this guy got disemboweled.
Yeah, and he ends up dying. He dies before he can give away the final answer.
Right, because Horus is trying. Horus switches to asking the disemboweled guy.
Yeah.
And the disemboweled guy is trying to answer, but the older fortune teller guy keeps interrupting him.
Yeah.
Because he doesn't want to look bad. I don't know.
It doesn't matter.
Whatever. But this basically sets up for Horus and Wakeham to meet up with the prince who was the 1,000. I think Wakeham's just out fucking around, kind of looking.
Yeah, he's
and Horus is actively seeking.
He's looking in a lot of vaginas. Is the prince who was 1,000 in this one? Nope,
he's not in this vagina.
I should probably check a couple more.
So, then Wakeham meets the Steel General and 2 of the Immortals, who we find out used to be angels. Okay, so
irrelevant.
Context, I'm just going to skip forward on the world building. There was a pantheon of immortals in charge of these stations, like these like planet-sized engines that maintain these fields of energy throughout the galaxy. I don't know if it's the whole universe or just a region of space. And these fields regulate life in a way that keeps the bad shit out of the galaxy, ostensibly.
Yeah.
Because a long, long time ago, 1,000 years ago, about the time that Wakeham would have died and gone to the kingdom of the dead,
weird.
There was some shenanigans, and Set, the king ruler of the universe, a while back, I think he'd created the fields, and he was the ruler, and he had all his people in their stations, of which now there are only 2 left, life and death. But there were more. And most of the immortals that are still hanging around were in charge of running these other like energy field stations.
So they're deposed gods.
They're deposed demigods.
Gotcha.
Yeah. One of them is a warrior poet who's kind of fun, snarky, and the other guy just takes himself way too seriously. But Wakeham meets up with these two guys, and these two guys can kind of keep up with him.
Yeah.
Which is unusual for Wakeham in his naive existence without his memories of who he was before he died the first time. And then the Steel General shows up.
Yeah.
I think he's a horse. He's like a metallic horse
person. He's the spirit of revolution.
And he never dies.
He never dies.
He has never died. He's died, but he always comes back. A piece of him always remains.
The most 60s character I can ever possibly imagine. He even references like he was he picketed Vietnam War stuff. Like they even mention contemporary events in the 60s that the Steel General was a part of.
Because he was a part of them, and then the singularity happened by the year 2000, I guess, so that this guy could become fully cybernetic and immortal.
Yeah, and so he could become the spirit of the revolution. Any revolution. Yes, that revolution.
Yes, he's always involved.
And you cannot defeat him.
So Wakeham and the Steel General,
because the spirit of revolution cannot be defeated.
There was a firefight!
There was time firefight.
One of the immortal guys. Oh, they're both fugue masters.
Yes.
Which means they can jump through time anywhere from a couple seconds to a few minutes.
At will.
Yeah. And I don't know what the limits of it are. It doesn't matter.
And it's the most bullshit use of like, well, I'm going 3 seconds back. Yeah, well, I'm already there. I went 5 seconds back. Oh my God, well, I went 5.5 seconds back. Yeah, well, I'm already waiting for you because I went 6 seconds back.
You know who did this better?
Who?
Jet Li's Hero.
Yes.
The water battle. Where they just looked at each other.
Yes.
For like 10 minutes and both had the battles in each other's minds.
And then the other guy just surrenders.
And then the one guy surrendered.
Yeah.
That was a much better execution of the idea
epic.
Of two great warriors battling and outdoing each other skill-wise.
Because by the end of this chapter, there's literally, and this is not even an exaggeration, over 100 versions of each of the characters, because they've been like, oh yeah, well, I went 35 seconds back. Well, I went 35.5 seconds back. Well, I went 36 seconds.
During this battle, it's tearing up the planet.
There's 100 of each of them, and then they all attack each other at once. I couldn't get over that.
It's tearing the planet apart.
Yeah.
So the one immortal guy opens a portal to a safe place. Like, it wouldn't really matter if this place got destroyed. And so he kind of, I guess he opens a wormhole and they get sucked through and they end up being like knocked out, comatose, because they were having a time fugue battle and they got sucked through a wormhole and no one's done that before.
Turns out they have a limit. They need nappies.
They are defeatable. So they're passed out. And the immortal guys are just chatting on this planet. And then Horus is like, oh, the entrail guy said I needed to go to this planet, and that's where I would find the prince who was 1,000. Who, shortly, we find out, is also called the prince who was a frog. Which I thought that was a clever...
Because he's a frog when they meet him here.
Yeah. The immortals get to the planet, and there's a frog on the table.
Yeah.
Is he under a bowl?
I think he's under a glass bowl.
Yeah. And so they're just hanging out. Horus shows up, explains what he's trying to do, which is kill the prince who was 1,000, and he's extremely eager. And someone ends up throwing something that hits the frog, and the frog pops up, and boom, he's the prince who was 1,000.
Yep.
And the prince who was 1,000, you don't want to mess with him.
No.
He's a step above the rest of the immortals.
He's like legit God.
He is legit God. He is his own grandfather.
I like the part where he teleports and he can teleport anywhere in the universe at will. and there's no way of knowing whether he is actually teleporting to something
to a place that already exists,
or whether he creates a space and then puts himself in it.
Right. That was a nice, like we're just
okay. So he uses it to keep his wife imprisoned?
He uses it to keep his wife in existence.
Okay.
Because someone, I forget who, basically destroyed his wife, and he gathered like the energy echoes of her. And this was a place where she could remain kind of alive.
Yeah.
So she's incorporeal. She doesn't have a body. It's just her vibes here.
Right. And it's a planet where the planet's in the middle, and then there's an air gap, and then there's an ocean around the whole outside of the planet.
So that's where he keeps her alive.
Yeah.
We don't ever get back to like her story. Anyway.
That's because the women don't matter.
Right. She doesn't have a vagina, so she doesn't matter.
Right. Do they have an epic dick? Can we talk about how other people want to put their mouth on it? Okay, great. Then we'll talk about that character. That's what it felt like. That's why I was like, I have to bail. I cannot. This is...
It's the most like bro characters that a bro could bro.
You could get pregnant reading this book. There's so much fucking like testosterone and probably semen soaked into every single page.
So the prince who was 1,000 shows up talking to Horace. Horace wants to beat him off. He's like, nah, I'm not going to let you do that. I think they eventually wake up the Steel General and wake him. And I don't know if I skipped over part or if we just literally jumped into the next. Horace and...
It goes off the rails.
Horace and the prince have a battle just so the prince can show him how outclassed he is. He can show Horace how outclassed Horace is in this fight.
Yeah.
And like forces Horace to stay alive because Horace is like, okay, fine, you win, kill me. And he's like, no, I don't want to kill you. Like, I care about you. and you can help me out. So how about no, I don't kill you, but my honor demands it. Fuck your honor. You're working for me now.
Yeah.
That's kind of what happens. But then they end up going off on this mission, separate missions to gather these artifacts of Set. And Set had this suit of armor and boots that made him fly. They can all fly anyway. I don't know why the boots were a big deal. I'm thinking this must be linked back to some ancient mythological story.
Okay, well,
about Set.
The guy who wrote The Star Maker, was on the good mushrooms. Zelazny, who wrote Creatures of Light and Darkness, was on the bad stuff. LSD.
It feels so heavy-handed, like I'm trying to make a sci-fi adaptation of ancient mythology.
This feels like a mashup of the like 60s obsession with mysticism and the idea of really like out there sci-fi.
Mm-hmm.
Like they read Star Maker or some of the more esoteric sci-fi from earlier. And then they were like, what if we added like a cool mystical science and magic twist to it? And it was all Egyptian gods.
Right.
And really well-hung dudes.
All the Egyptian gods are well-hung dudes.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's a requirement. Apparently.
It's a requirement. Yeah. Why would we have a woman in this? What is she going to do? Do they need a cook? I don't understand. Like, that's what it feels like.
Yeah.
It feels like parts are skipped for sure because we jump around planets. We jump around characters. We go from here, and this is where I really lost the plot.
So
after Horace hooks up with everybody.
One of the immortal guys goes to this like monastery with the boots where they worship the boots because the boots are worshipable. Sure. And they steal them and they get out. And it's not really a big deal. The tension isn't really there.
Yeah.
And then the prince and the Steel General and the other immortal guy and Horus. Sorry, the prince, Horus, and the Steel General go to the dwarves.
Yeah.
And get the wand.
The dwarves that have no eyes.
The dwarves that have no eyes, but they have an agreement with the prince where the prince will give them, like, are to surgically implant eyes in them. But then all the other dwarves on the planet also don't have eyes, and they're jealous or envious. And so they poke each other's eyes out. I don't know. I think he was really trying to go for something there, and it really didn't hit.
This whole thing feels like it's a metaphor, you guys. You get it? And you're like, what? What? What are you talking? Like, I get that you're supposed to be a metaphor, but
what is the metaphor for?
And I mean, you kind of get it because it's so heavy-handed, you can't not. But then you're like, surely it's not that, because that you literally said that out loud. It's not a metaphor if you tell me what it is. You're supposed to let me figure it out. Because I think Wakem's with him, and he's like, well, why do you give them eyes if they're just going to pluck them out? And he's like, because then they get to see for a few minutes and they don't care. Like, they just understand that having a privilege means other people will try to take it away from you. And you're like, thank you, but also, what the fuck?
Right.
That was so out from what we were talking about. I completely forgot why we were on this planet, because we went on so long about how they can't be under sedation. And so the eyes have to be put in without sedation. So it hurts.
Right, because they don't sleep. They cannot be made unconscious.
Right. So it hurts the dwarves when they put them in them, and yet they do it all
because it's a thing worth doing.
Because it's a thing worth doing, even though knowing that they're gonna. If you're like, what? Why were we here? I've already forgotten, and we're just talking about it. The wand, yeah.
And then there was another mission with the other immortal guy to get the glove that turns into the suit, the like Iron Man suit. Yeah. So we got the boots, the suit, and the wand.
Yep.
As the three artifacts.
The boot, the suit, and the wand.
Somebody needs to defeat the thing. The thing from outside.
The nameless one?
The nameless thing.
Yeah.
That, I don't know, was unstoppable.
Surprise! That's the bad guy now.
Who knows?
There's like 200 pages in the book, and we already switched bad guys.
Okay. So the family trees... Anyway. Okay, so Isis.
Yeah.
Was at one time,
yeah,
Isis hooked up with Osiris.
Yeah.
And had Horus. And that's Osiris's legitimate son. But Isis cheated on Osiris with somebody else, and that's where what is the Shadow Horse guy? Can't even remember.
Shadow Horse guy. Shadow Horse Daddy. Just go with it.
Hold on, I want to look this up because.
Go.
Okay, so Isis gave birth to Typhon.
Okay.
Who ate a black hole.
Sure.
Is a black hole. Identifies as a black hole.
Good, let's go with that. Yep.
Typhon.
As long as it has a dick.
Is Thoth's brother. Thoth is the prince who was 1,000.
Okay.
And those are the other two sons of Isis.
With Set.
But, wait.
Honey, you're going to die if you try to work it out.
Okay, so maybe not with Isis.
I feel, you know what, when...
Okay, so, and our cast,
yes.
we have...
They're all interrelated.
Right.
Yeah. Let's leave it at that.
So, Thoth, who identifies as a black hole, he just does his own thing, mostly. But he can, wherever his shadow lands, he can just destroy whatever's
Isn't
there.
Typhon?
Typhon.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so Typhon is the only creature that Anubis is actually afraid of.
Okay.
So Typhon shows up and is like, Anubis, what the fuck are you doing? I think Set is Typhon's dad. I don't know. It's so like it's mentioned like 0.9 times.
Yeah.
What the family relations are.
Less than one time.
Right.
Yes.
It's so ambiguously described through bits and pieces.
This felt like
what
I was
the family
missing
relations.
Something.
Right.
This felt like this was something and I was missing it. Like I wasn't smart enough to figure it out. Like, how does Meg describe it? Like, you're playing a Mario game and you beat it and it's fine, but you didn't find all the hidden levels, so you didn't actually beat the game. Like, I finished the book, but I don't know if I read the book. Like, was there a secret code?
Was there a secret message, or was it just ineptly put together?
It kind of feels like Clockwork Orange, where the whole premise at the whole preface at the beginning, the whole like thing written by the author at the very beginning, the foreword was like, this is the worst book I have ever written. It is a terrible book. I fucking hate this book. Would you please fucking let this book die? Why did I agree to let them make a movie out of this book? Now this book will never die. Don't read this book. I fucking hate you if you read this book. And I was like, cool, then I won't read the book. I wanted a foreword from Zelazny that was like, here's what this book is about. And then I could have gone forward into the book like, okay, that's what this book is about. Instead of being like, I read this entire book and I don't know what happened.
Right.
There were too many characters. There were too many relationships. There were too many different places. There was middle world. There was like the world of the living, the world of the dead. There were the middle worlds. There were different planets in the middle worlds. And then there were like 17 characters, all of whom had like 3 different names.
Right.
They would appear and disappear at random. They each had seemingly random powers. They were all dudes. It was all about metaphors for their dick. It was just a lot. And I kept trying to find something like good that I could talk about in this book. And I think really the only thing we can discuss that sounds even remotely positive is that it feels like one of the first science sufficiently advanced that it could be magic.
Right.
Because we start with Anubis and we're in the land of the dead and we're like, okay, cool. This is kind of like in Hercules from Disney. And like, we've got the god of the dead and there's souls and they're having a party and they're eating food they can't taste and they're drinking wine that will never get them drunk. Okay, cool. This is kind of neat. And then he's like, okay, I'm going to give you a robot body. And you're like, okay.
And then I'm going to plug you into the control system.
Okay, we have taken a right turn at Albuquerque. Now this dude's a robot because he's like, okay, I'm going to give you back your name. And he's like, cool, yeah, I'm ready. I'm going to get a name. I'm going to get a name. This is great. And he's like, all right, cut off your thumb. Now burn that shit. Oh yeah. Okay, no, cut off your other thumb. Do it. Yeah, do it. And he's like, okay, now I'm going to give you a robot hand. I want you to heat that hand up. I want you to melt your own dick. And he's like, oh yeah, that's how this book opens.
That's how you're going to prove your loyalty to me.
And I was like, oh no, I don't know oh no.
I started reading this and I was like, oh boy, Rachel's going to love this part. Okay, so to finish the plot summary.
Okay, how does it end?
So the thing that happened 1,000 years ago was the thing that shows up is called the thing that cries in the night.
Okay. Of course it is. Or it's dick.
And Set with his mighty armor, boots, and wand was fighting it. And just before Set ostensibly would have finished the battle, Osiris saw his opportunity to cause a supernova right where they were. But no, it's called like the hammer that could destroy a sun or something like that. But he uses it on a planet instead of a star. And it almost kills Set.
Okay.
It brings him close enough to death. It brings him close enough to death that Anubis can take him in and like wipe his memories and all that.
And start the cycle over again.
He's not really trying to start the cycle. It's kind of an ego trip that he thinks he has become so powerful that he can now play Set like a puppet. Okay. And make Set do his bidding.
Yeah, like burn his own dick off.
That's all just a power trip for Anubis.
Okay.
And so when Typhon shows up to Anubis, he's like, "You're hiding something." And Anubis is like, "I know if you found out what happened, I know it really, really looks like I'm a bad guy. But I'm not the bad guy. Give me a chance to explain." Typhon's like, "Fuck you. I'm taking your right arm. And I'm going to go do some research." Typhon comes back later and Anubis is just gone. And everybody knows that Typhon went to Anubis to settle the score after he found out that Anubis was actually involved in the betrayal of Set with Osiris. And they get there and both Typhon and Anubis are gone. So one of the immortal guys is like, "Well, I mean, I know how to run this equipment because I used to have my own like universe field station, whatever. So I guess I'll figure out how this stuff works because someone needs to keep it running." Turns out Anubis just ran away and hid.
Oh, from Typhon.
From Typhon. And
well, all he has to do is have his shadow follow
in the meantime, Wakeham has they've assembled the 3 artifacts. Wakeham has put them on because Thoth, the prince who was 1,000, is like, "I'll give you your real name back." And Wakeham is like, "Well, that's the only reason I decided to cooperate with you. The conversation that we never actually covered in the book for why we all went on these missions to recover these 3 artifacts, we just jumped into it and never discussed anybody's motivations for why we did it." Anyway, I'm such a clever writer. So he's like, "Okay, tell me my name." He's like, "Put on the fucking boots." So Wakeham puts on the boots. Doesn't that feel good? Putting on those boots? Doesn't it feel familiar? I bet it feels real good. Okay, now put on the glove.
Do it.
Do it.
Do it.
It'll feel so good.
Yeah, now grab your wand. No, not that one. Not that one. The other one.
And so gets all 3 artifacts, and then Wakeham remembers that he is Set and he was betrayed.
Thoth's like, whatever. "Hey, dad, son."
So Thoth is Set's son, but Set is Thoth's son.
Yeah, it's fine.
Anyway.
Further explanation not required.
It's like predestination.
It is like predestination, where she ends up being her own father and mother.
And mother, yeah. So Set, Wakeham, decides, "Okay, I need to finish what I started. Where's the thing that cries in the night?" And Thoth pops up and says, "Oh yeah, I got it wrapped up nice for you." So they go to fight it. But it turns out one of the immortal guys swapped out the glove. So Set's not really invincible, but it doesn't end up mattering because the power suit that the guy gave him instead of the invincible one was strong enough. This guy like does this swap out to kind of betray Set again, but it's like you give Chekhov a rifle and then you never see Chekhov again.
Right.
So I don't know, like, what was the point of that? They're fighting.
I think that
blah,
should be
blah,
the
blah.
I think that should be the blurb on the back of the book. What was the point of that?
So, and then they're fighting. Wakeham Set has it on the ropes, whatever, and then Typhon shows up and erases the entire planet where they were fighting, leaving Set/Wakeham alive, but now both Typhon and the thing that cries in the night are both gone. And in the meantime, the guy who kept Set's real gauntlet invincible suit thing is teaming up with Osiris, I think, to do another betrayal. But then the Steel General and the lady Wakeham was banging show up. And I don't even know why they're there. Like, whatever. I'm having a really hard time finishing this.
And then it's like you're having a dream. Like you had a bad dream and you're trying to remember
That's exactly what it feels like. It feels like I'm trying to piece together a dream after I woke up.
And it's just slipping away and you're like, wait a minute.
Because nothing's actually connected in a sensible way. So the thing that cries in the night was defeated. And then Horus goes off. There's an oracle that is, it's basically a machine, artificial intelligence, with the bottom half of a female body. And it will answer your questions as long as you continue to pleasure it.
Yeah, so this is when I was like,
so Horus shows up. This is at the very end.
Yeah.
Horus shows up and he's like, I need some fucking answers. Don't we all, Horus? Don't we all?
The kind of answers you get by fucking.
So he's pleasuring the bottom half of the robot oracle.
It's just the bottom half of a woman. There is no other part of the woman.
No, it's the bottom half sticking out of a wall.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Correct.
So he's pleasuring the woman and asking questions. And then I think he ends up saying, like, telling the machine that he could love it or something. And that, like, breaks the spell. And boom.
Yeah, because
a pregnant lady pops out.
Because someone had to find her lovable. That was all she's been waiting for like hundreds of years.
And it turns out, Set's the dad. This is baby Thoth in her belly.
Jesus
that has to grow up and travel back in time to make a baby to make a baby Set with another woman. I don't know what that was for either. God, yeah, it does feel like a weird dream.
It feels like like the bad shit. Like he was on not the good shit. He was on the bad shit, and he brought us along on this bad trip. And I think this is one of those cases where the book is so weird and so obscure that literally no one wants to admit that they didn't get it. So they're like, "Oh yeah, that was a great book." And they're like, "Oh my God, yeah, it was so great. Yeah, I got so much out of it."
Meanwhile, you're like whispering to the person next to you, "Did you actually finish it? Because I couldn't finish it.
I have no idea.
No, I couldn't finish it either.
I have nothing. No, but at the same
I just
time,
feel like I need to tell everybody it was great.
that was really good. Yeah, because you don't want to be the one that didn't get it. Well, I'll take the hit for the team. I didn't get it.
Yeah.
We're not never like we're so negative. I feel really bad. I am so sorry. This guy is like a pillar of sci-fi, and I'm like, this dude sucks. I don't know. I feel like if any book can be shit on, this book can be shit on a little. It's fine. Literally, there were like two female characters. One
It's
of
a
which
55-year-old book. We can shit on it.
Yeah, one female character was like the lady that Wakeham is fucking, and the other one was literally just the lower half of a woman sticking out of a wall.
Isis also shows up and give one of the immortal guys her transport and like a medallion thing to protect him. But she doesn't want to get personally involved because it's family.
Yeah.
Like, she doesn't want to get into a fight with her ex-husband or ex-boyfriend and her son.
Yeah.
Basically. But she gives this other guy her really fast car and her shield.
So one is just the lady fucking Wakeham. One is the lower half of a woman sticking out of a wall, and the other one's a MacGuffin.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
So, I think that pretty well covers what we thought of Creatures of Light and Darkness.
I mean, it also kind of covers why it was delayed, because we were like, what can we say about this book? And I think we just need to be honest, is that just because something is a classic doesn't mean it's a great book, and that's okay. You know, it's like kind of like Wuthering Heights. And Wuthering Heights gets pedestaled as this romance. And I think modern listeners and modern readers have really started to have the conversation, and we're kind of far along in the conversation maybe about how it's actually one of the most toxic romances of all time, which is really ironic because it's used in Twilight as like a romantic book. Like a lot.
It's fitting.
It's fine. It's the whole part at the end where Heathcliff is like, yeah, I would die for her. If she died, I would die because she is my life. And it's like, oh, it's so romantic. No, honey, no. I'm so glad we have come so far.
Yes.
I am glad that these types of books, which are literally just like masculine circle jerks, are not the breadth of science fiction offerings anymore.
Right. Yeah, these are not the pinnacle of achievement in sci-fi writing.
And I think this is a really interesting look into kind of the like machismo history of sci-fi and how sci-fi was the realm of men for such a long time. Because we traditionally associate science with men, which is not even true. It's mostly because men stole women's achievements and took credit for it, but that's fine. So I think it's just really interesting that that sci-fi has traditionally been such a male-dominated space, and this is like peak male-dominated.
Right, and this still makes it into the top lists.
Yeah.
Of sci-fi books that you need to read when, like, okay, maybe for some historical context.
Yeah, just to read it and go, oh, wow, I'm glad we're not like that anymore.
But there are sci-fi books from the 60s that are better.
Yeah. Ursula K. Le Guin.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now you know why you know what? We're going to do Ursula next. Our next 6 months are going to be devoted to Ursula K. Le Guin.
Okay, so I'm looking forward to our next scheduled book, which is The Quantum Thief.
Yes.
Which is also a post-technological sci-fi, humans distributed throughout the galaxy, but it's way better than this.
Okay, well,
it's more of a noir detective post-tech sci-fi.
It has a plot.
It has a plot.
Yeah, it
has intriguing, likable characters.
It's post-technological, but it's not post-plot.
Right. It's not post-narrative.
What is in Atlas Shrugged when they're talking to the writer and he's like, plot is a vulgar contrivance? That's what this felt like.
Yeah.
And he wrote a book called like The Vulture is Molting. Yeah, that's yeah. I'm glad we read this. You know, I'm glad we read this for the same reason that I'm glad I'm reading Twilight right now, which is it's making me appreciate Sarah J. Maas because Stephanie Meyer's is so much worse.
I never thought I'd hear you say that.
Honestly. You know, you forget how far we've come. And so these are like historical relics. They're like a time capsule of the morality and the way that we looked at each other as like men and women and other genders, however you want to put that, in this microcosm of time.
Yeah.
And this is so far removed that it's unreadable. I can't put myself in this headspace at all, where I as a female matter, not at all. I don't get to be the steel general. I don't get to have time fugue powers. I don't get to do shit. I get to be stuck in a wall until someone says they love me for hundreds of years. I get to be the oracle glory hole for a millennia waiting for someone to love me, to find me lovable.
Yeah.
Which is gross on a level I can't even begin to describe. Okay. So, yeah, but like Twilight is early 2000s and it is toxic as fuck. And yet I lived through that. I read those when they first came out. I can put myself in that space.
Creatures of Light and Darkness was a little more passively toxic.
Yeah.
Like they weren't.
That's because there were no female characters for them to abuse.
It didn't feel like they were trying to be assholes. It's just that's who they were.
I think Thoth and his wife was his stab at romance.
Yes.
Yeah.
But the way you've been talking about the Twilight books, it's like he has to be trying to be the most toxic asshole that he can imagine.
Yeah. I don't know. I'm glad we read this. It's a good perspective. And I'm not sure why it makes it on lists, but that's okay. I don't have to know all these things. Other people can have opinions and they can be wrong and it's fine. Matt didn't laugh, but that was a joke. So he was
no.
He was like, no, yeah, that sounds like something that would come out of Rachel's mouth. It's fine. I can tell. No, it's fine.
It fits.
It fits. And now I have a copy of Creatures in Light and Darkness that I'm never going to read again if anybody wants it. So just holler at me because I want it off my shelf.
And we disapprove of burning books.
Yeah, I feel like it might corrupt the other books around it. Like I'm going to come in, they're all going to have tiny dicks.
It's like a bad apple.
Yeah.
It ruins the whole
Right. They're going to wag them at me when I walk by. Be like, you want to tell my future? This just feels like this man never met a woman who stood up to him in his life.
Yeah.
In his life.
He never met Ursula.
Clearly not. So we're gonna read Ursula next. Not next. We have one more book in this cycle, and then we're gonna switch to Ursula. And I'm so stoked because, I'm ready to hear a woman's voice in this space.
Right, and when we were looking at Ursula K. Le Guin's bibliography, we both only knew her from
Wizard of Earthsea,
which is part of how Rachel seduced me.
Yeah, I was reading the book passively on a chair. And Matt
Irresistible.
Was like, oh yeah. Oh.
That's the stuff.
Hey, do you play Magic?
This was after the Magic.
Oh yeah, that's right. We played Magic the Gathering, and then you were like, I brought the book with me, and you were like, oh my God. It's meant to be.
This is the one. But then it was just last year we found out Ursula K. Le Guin was renowned for sci-fi before she ever wrote Earthsea.
And I'm stoked.
So we have hard copies of like all of her books or most of them.
Yeah.
And so, we're going to work through her groundbreaking sci-fi.
Yeah. Clearly groundbreaking because she probably just had female characters that had lines.
Ooh, she has cyberpunk with plot.
What? Plot is a modern vulgarity. All right. I guess we'll just leave it there. Have we shit enough? I feel like we've shit enough. I think we're good.
Yeah, we've cleansed the mental bowels.
I don't have to think about that book ever again. And now you have all. We've just put that out into the universe here on the Strange and Beautiful Book Club. We are getting ready to start Lex. So if you have ever watched Lex, or you have not watched Lex and you want to hear us talk about it for longer than the episode every single time, the Dead Do Not podcast will be starting up soon. So go find it. It should be up on most streaming platforms now.
Yeah, I think we're waiting for all the approvals to go through for Apple
just Apple,
Podcasts.
Yeah. But it's already on Spotify. It's already on Pocket Casts. So you can go ahead and find it and you can subscribe and will know as soon as we start updating it. Or you can follow me on Instagram at Strange and Beautiful Network, where I try to keep everything updated with middling success because, as I mentioned earlier, I run a really tight ship. I could also, maybe have an employee if you guys would go and join the Patreon, and then I would be able to run a tight ship because it wouldn't just be me.
So remember, sometimes the strangest things are the most beautiful too.
So be who you are and love what you love. Until next time, friends.
Bye.
Bye.